His name is Roy. He is the CEO of Breeze. And Breeze is really pushing Lightning as far as you can get, really. They're also helping other companies adopt Lightning. Not yet, Roy, not yet. Oh, OK, come on down then, come on down. Please welcome Roy to the stage. He's keen, he's ready to go. I was going to keep singing your praises.
OK, you can go on, Joe.
OK, in which case. So Breeze is, of course, a leading company in the Lightning Network space that focuses on making Bitcoin usable as an everyday currency. In this talk, I imagine that Roy will challenge the notion that Bitcoin has to be, or can be, either a store of value or a medium of exchange, and instead he'll explore why Bitcoin can and should be both, and how the Lightning Network is making that vision a reality. Is that completely bollocksed up your talk?
That's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Is it?
Yeah.
Amazing. OK, in which case?
But I need to change my presentation now, because without rules, we don't have Bitcoin.
That's true. That's Dennis famously said.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Roy. Give it up for Roy, and please welcome him to the stage once more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roy Sheinfeld. I'm the CEO of Breeze. Breeze is a Lightning company. We are helping Bitcoin scale. We're helping Bitcoin. We're helping. Sorry, I froze for a second because I lost my train of thought. Bitcoin is slow on the main chain, and Lightning Network helps Bitcoin scale. It helps people execute Bitcoin transaction fastly, cheaply, and in a scalable manner. So I'm known as the Lightning guy. Typically, in these conferences, they bring me to explain how the Lightning Network works, and how Bitcoin can transform from digital gold to a medium of exchange. And when Give gave me a call a few months ago and asked me to come to the Plan B forum and talk about the Lightning Network and how Lightning works and to help with Lightning education, I told Give, well, listen, there's a problem. In every conversation that I'm having with people, the first sentence that they tell me is, Bitcoin is a store of value. Bitcoin is not a medium of exchange. Why are you talking to me about scaling Bitcoin or executing Bitcoin payments? So I thought that in this conference, I'll try to do something different and try kind of to break this narrative, or at least challenge this narrative of Bitcoin being a store of value and not medium of exchange. So I know it's hard. We live in a meme culture, and now every time we need to classify, whenever we encounter a new technology or something new, we need to classify it using a meme. And the Bitcoin meme is hold Bitcoin, don't use it, don't spend it. Bitcoin should be the new gold. And I'm not surprised, because there's a lot of influencers in the Bitcoin ecosystem that are pushing that narrative. Let's hear what Michael Saylor says here.
Satoshi created digital capital. Digital capital is worth hundreds of trillions of dollars. $400 trillion by my last estimate. Somebody's already invented a better idea than you think you're smart enough to come up with a better idea than $450 trillion? Like, what's the second best idea, right? Right? The point is, there is no second best idea, right? There's an idea. It's called Bitcoin. It's digital capital.
Bitcoin is digital capital. Okay. I don't know what capital is, and I'm working in Bitcoin for the past 6 years. Bitcoin is digital capital. Notice the use of the word capital to describe Bitcoin. Another example, and I get that very, very often, is people telling me, Bitcoin will never be used to buy coffee at a coffee shop, so Bitcoin isn't a medium of exchange. So there's like this correlation, there's association between merchant adoption and Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. And you see that a lot on mainstream media. You see that a lot in the Bitcoin ecosystem, this association between something being adopted by merchant and its use as a medium of exchange. So I'm asking you guys, what do you think? What is Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin a store of value or a medium of exchange? By show of hands, who thinks Bitcoin is a store of value? Sorry? By using words, I'm limiting the definition of Bitcoin. Yes, but we have to have a common language. Who thinks that Bitcoin is a medium of exchange? OK, so let's talk about store of value, and let's try. I agree, we need to talk about definition. What is a store of value? So store of value is something that is traded over time, meaning something that has two main properties. One, durability, and second, retaining value. A store of value basically needs to be durable and needs to retain value. But inherently, in the term store of value, it means that it suggests a future trade. And let's drill down into that a bit. All value is contextual. So I'm not an economy scholar, but if you think about the term value and what is value, there are different theories that helps you kind of classify what value is. There's the Marx definition of value as the labor theory of value, meaning the more work you put into producing a thing, the more it's worth. I don't subscribe to this theory. Just as an example, you can think about, let's say, a cultivated strawberry and a strawberry that grows in the wild. And if the strawberry that grows in the wild tastes better than the cultivated strawberry, is that strawberry worth less than the cultivated strawberry? That's not something that I subscribe to. Also, in the digital era where you can replicate software, when you can replicate items much more quicker in a massive production, labor doesn't really mean a lot unless you protect it by IP and other rules. So I don't subscribe to the labor theory of value. We are left with an intrinsic value, some value that is inherent to an object. I don't think anything has an intrinsic value. I don't think their value can be inherent. I think all value is contextual. If you walk through the desert and you encounter a bottle of water, this bottle of water worth all the gold in the world for you to drink. So basically, what I'm trying to say, store of value means if you subscribe to the subjective theory of value, it suggests that there should be a future trade that price the item that you're storing, meaning. If I hold something as a store of value, it means that I'll be able to trade it later for a price. And if we agree that all value is subjective, it means that I'll have to exchange it again in the future in order to be able to price it. But there's no value in a transactional vacuum. And store of value needs to be exchanged in order for it to have real value. That's my definition of store of value. And it means that store of value implies trade. And medium of exchange. Medium of exchange basically means that you can trade something over assets, meaning it is an asset that you can exchange for other assets in a scalable manner, in a widely accepted manner. So this asset needs to be widely accepted and widely used in order for it to be exchanged for other goods and services. So basically, every time you use a medium of exchange, you execute a trade. And in order for you to execute a trade, it means that value need to be retained into the object that you're purchasing, the object that you're buying. So value retention, what is a medium of exchange? Medium of exchange needs to be transferable, needs to be portable, and needs to be fungible. That's the good properties of medium of exchange. And when we think about medium of exchange, we don't think about value retention and durability. But every time you're using an asset as a medium of exchange, some value retention is necessary, because if there's no value retention, you won't be able to use it later on in order to exchange it for other goods and services. So we see that the same properties of store of value are required for a medium of exchange as well. And by using something as a medium of exchange, it means that you reinforce the subjective theory of value, because you are actually pricing that asset again. I'll try to give an example. I don't want to go too much into theory, but think about, for example, cigarettes in prison. Cigarettes in prison are a great medium of exchange. Like, it's the only medium of exchange. It doesn't have a value retention because cigarettes can go stale. So in a very specific context, there's an item that is highly tradable that retains value, but you can't really use cigarettes outside of the context of the prison because it won't retain value. So basically, what I'm trying to say is the more a medium of exchange is retaining its value, the better medium of exchange it is. That's the reason we have a big difference between a hard currency and a soft currency. A hard currency, for example, the US dollar or the euro or the Swiss franc, has a very good value retention, and that's why they're being used more as a medium of exchange in the world, unlike the Venezuelan bolivar, for example. So medium of exchanges reinforce the subjective theory of value. And my claim, and I was not able to prove this claim, but I'm claiming that the fact that you're using an asset as a medium of exchange actually increases its value, the value itself, meaning the fact that you're using an object to exchange it for some other goods and services adds value to the item itself, because you add utility to the item. I will give an example of gold later on, but just kind of to summarize the theoretical part of this presentation, I want to say that without value, it's hard to conceptualize. A medium of exchange, and basically, there's no value without an exchange. So if we think about different assets in the world, and we're trying to put them into a Venn diagram, you can understand that most assets in the world are actually in the intersection, in the convergence between store of value and a medium of exchange. Yes, there are edge cases, and yes, there are exceptions, but most assets in the world do have some characteristics of both store of value and a medium of exchange. If I have a stolen Picasso, yes, I can't really trade it, so it stops becoming a medium of exchange. But if it's something that we use on a daily basis, it most likely have the properties of both store of value and medium of exchange. So to summarize this section, I'll leave you with this mental model. A store of value is a medium of exchange in a transactional slow motion. And a medium of exchange is a store of value with the trading velocity crank up, meaning it's a store of value on steroids. Store of value and medium of exchange are logically and practically inseparable. So, segueing back to Bitcoin, what does it mean, what I think that Bitcoin is? Bitcoin is both. Bitcoin is a store of value and a medium of exchange. And these assets that are interconnected already exist throughout history. If we go back to the Bronze Age, you will find the oxide ingots. The oxide ingots are 30 kilograms of either copper or tin, oxide-looking entities that were used in order to trade and store value during the Bronze Age. The Bronze Age, I think, second millennial BCE, you can find the ingots all across the Mediterranean, and there were a great store of value because they were comprised of tin and copper. And tin and copper, mostly copper, less tin, they were heavily used for utility during the Bronze Age. So there were objects that retained their value very, very well. But we see them all across Mesopotamia and other areas in the globe. And it means that they were spread out throughout the globe and used for trade. There were, back in the days, there were easily transportable through chariots. Let's move up in time a little bit and talk about gold. People think about like the common statement about Bitcoin, that Bitcoin is digital gold, but gold wouldn't have become gold unless it was heavily used for exchange for centuries. The origins of gold, of course, gold was used as jewelry and for ceremonial purposes. But when people started coining gold, then gold actually became what we think of as gold, meaning fungible and transferable. And once it was fungible and transferable, it was spread out across the world. And the value of gold itself risen because the use of gold as a medium of exchange. So you also in gold, you see the convergence between the use of something as medium of exchange as store of value. Wampum is a very interesting story, by the way. When the European got to America in the 17th century, they tried to interact with the indigenous people living in America. And they didn't have a common language, they didn't have a common religion, but they didn't also have common value. They couldn't really do commerce with the people already living in America. So they tried different things, and they tried different utilities. They tried to use fur poles. That didn't really work because they weren't very durable, and they weren't really fungible. They tried the Venetian beads, but the Venetian beads were very hard to transport from Europe. And a Dutch trader, I can't remember the name, but a Dutch trader, he kidnapped an indigenous chief. He took it hostage, and the Native Americans, in order to release this hostage from captivity, they paid the Dutch traders. The Dutch trader in wampum. What's wampum? Wampum is our strings of beads made from clam shells in different colors, and once this trader saw there wasn't use of wampum before this exchange. Once this trader saw that the natives are using wampum in order to release the otter, he thought it was something that is valuable. And then people started exchange using this wampum beads. And wampum actually became legal tender at some of the American colonies. And we see wampum was used heavily for trade, and we see that even people hoarded wampum in order to retain value. They use it as store of value. Gold, sorry, the USD. Everyone knows the USD is a medium of exchange, but we think of when we think about USD, we don't think of USD as a store of value. Maybe some of you guys, because you're in the banking industry and you're in the financial industry, you understand that 8.8 from the foreign reserve currency is 8.8 billion is held of US debt is held by foreign countries, and 60% of the foreign currencies are held in USD. That means that USD isn't just being used as commerce. The IOUs provided by the US government is used as a store of value. So we see a lot of assets, and we'll circle back to Bitcoin in a second, but when we see these type of assets, the ingots, the wampum, the gold, USD, I'm asking myself why people don't think about Bitcoin as USD. Why people don't think as Bitcoin as gold, but in the day gold was used in commerce. By the way, gold till this day is heavily traded. I think the volume is like $150 million a day. So people still trade gold and use even gold as a medium of exchange. So I hope, I'm not sure, but I hope I was able kind of to portray a more nuanced picture of an asset being used as both a store of value and a medium of exchange. Let's go back to Bitcoin. We know Bitcoin is a store of value. This is a graph that shows the different assets depreciation compared to Bitcoin. I agree with Michael Saylor that there's no asset better than Bitcoin. But I disagree with Saylor because I think Bitcoin is appreciated because of its use as a medium of exchange. I have a quiz for you guys. What's the Bitcoin volume settled in 2022? Who thinks that Bitcoin was exchanged in $38 trillion throughout 2022? Raise of hands. 14.9? 5.2? 8.1? The right answer is somewhere between 14.9 and 38.8 trillion. That means like the number 38 or 14, that's the X on the market share of Bitcoin. We don't know we don't know exactly the volume because in Bitcoin there's a concept of a change address. When you make a Bitcoin transaction, there are the change of the transaction is going back to the owner of the wallet, so we don't really know, but the estimation is something between 14.9 and 38.8. That means Bitcoin is traded a lot. And that's the dominant use case. The dominant use case of Bitcoin is trading Bitcoin against other assets. And when you do, this type of trades, you're actually using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange. Yes, you might buy Bitcoin in order to hold it, and maybe in the future do another price detection of Bitcoin, but the fact that Bitcoin is so heavily traded means that it's been actively used as a medium of exchange. And it's not about merchant adoption. It's about the ability of Bitcoin to be traded a lot at a high velocity, and actually in a staggering velocity, uncomparable to any other asset. We have above 2 million BTC held in exchanges, in hot wallets in exchanges, used actively to be traded. Let's so just to summarize the trading part, the fact that Bitcoin is being traded, it's a great use case of Bitcoin being used both as a store of value and a medium of exchange. Merchant adoption, I'll go quickly through my slides because I don't have much time left. There's a great River report that came out recently, and it highlighted the company called Atoms. Atoms is a company that sells shoes, and they accept Bitcoin. People buy Atom shoes with Bitcoin, and Atom, as a company, as a merchant, they hold their Bitcoin. They don't use the Bitcoin that they received from consumers, from customers, for their expenses. They're actually holding their Bitcoin and using Bitcoin as a store of value. So in one transaction where someone, a consumer, bought shoes, the merchant actually held the Bitcoin as a store of value. Another example of Bitcoin being used both as a store of value as a medium of exchange. There are a lot of mainstream luxury retail brands that accept Bitcoin. So whenever someone asks you, well, you know, I can't buy coffee with Bitcoin, yeah, you're right. You can't buy coffee with Bitcoin, but you can buy a Louis Vuitton bag with Bitcoin. And you can buy a Proton email subscription with Bitcoin. And you can do PayPal transactions with Bitcoin. Bitcoin starting to get a wider merchant acceptance, and we see it every day. However, we need to keep in mind that all medium of exchange and store values are betas. What I mean to say is that Bitcoin isn't perfect. There's a lot of problems with Bitcoin, especially when you compare it to fiat. Fiat has a huge network effect. It actually has 13 centuries of network effect. Think about how fiat is embedded to our day-to-day life with banks, with taxation, with all types of regulation. It's very hard to imagine that we'll ever will be able to get rid out of fiat. And that presents a problem because we live in a fiat world, and when we try to use our Bitcoin in a fiat world, it's very hard to do. That's why people think that without convergence into the fiat system, we won't be able to use Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a UX problem. The UX isn't great as it should be. And more than that, the UX now doesn't provide a 10x improvement on the fiat experience because we aren't able to manifest Bitcoin in the use cases that we need to manifest it. I want to show you very quickly another clip.
All right, let me see, what will it be?
We're here to go. Would you like ketchup on that?
Well,
Large or small fry?
Cash or credit?
what? The home of the Whopper is offering cash or credit.
I think it's pretty bad if you have to use a credit card when you go to a fast food restaurant for something as little as $3.10.
If I use my GM
She's saying, I think it's very bad that you need to use your credit card in order to buy $30 Whopper at Burger King. And this video is from 1993. So 30 years ago, people couldn't fathom the fact that we'll use credit card, now integrated into our mobile devices, everywhere, anywhere, and for any amount. And now when you go to London, for example, I just came back from London a few months ago, I wasn't able to use cash. So The world is changing. The UX of credit card, I'm old enough to remember when you used to go to a store and they had these iron devices to iron the credit card and then sign the slip. When you think about the development of a credit card from that user experience to today's user experience when you only tap to pay, you understand how long we have in order to resolve these issues in Bitcoin, but we're getting there, I promise. Capital gains tax is also a big blocker. There are countries that are stuck in the past and don't think about Bitcoin as a currency. There are other countries like Switzerland, like Portugal, that are like Germany, that are making this transition, and we're happy about it. Volatility is also an issue, but I want to leave you with this thought that as Bitcoin going to be used more as a medium of exchange, then the volatility will decrease, because whenever you do a medium of exchange purchase or medium of exchange trade, it means that you're doing a price discovery. It means that you're doing a triangulation. So whenever, as much as Bitcoin will be used against real-world products and services, then this triangulation will work and we'll have less price swings. Maybe to stop with this gift that doesn't work, Bitcoin is for everyone. And I'm Satoshi Nakamoto. I have a scoop to tell you, but you're all Satoshi Nakamoto. Bitcoin is mine. Bitcoin is yours. We can make Bitcoin whatever we want Bitcoin to be. And I think Bitcoin is freedom money. I think Bitcoin should be used by everyone. And I think we don't need rules to use Bitcoin because the rules are written into the Bitcoin protocols. More than that, I think when you hear this narrative of Bitcoin is a store of value, think about who's saying that and what they are selling. Because instead of selling you direct access to Bitcoin and direct access to the asset, basically, some of these influencers, they're trying to get you to buy their products. It can be ETFs, it can be stocks, it can be whatever, but basically they want to buy the Bitcoin. They want to give you a proxy access to Bitcoin, and they actually, by giving you access to Bitcoin, they are preventing you to access Bitcoin. Bitcoin as an asset also needs to be decentralized. Bitcoin as an asset also needs to be spread if we want to protect it as a freedom money. I'll just quote Satoshi, and I'll say that Bitcoin is peer-to-peer electronic cash. Use Bitcoin, spend Bitcoin, and enjoy the rest of the conference.